Hi everyone and welcome back to Maths and Physics with Mr. Simons, where we make maths and physics simple and we get you exam ready. Alright, today's lesson, classwork, variation 6 of 9 of equations, and we're solving for x by grouping terms. So solve for x, that is common. And grouping terms normally involve where we give you either 4 terms, 6 terms, 8 terms, etc. But it should be an even number of terms for us to group. We normally, most of the time, we're going to group them into twos. So x minus 1, if I look at those two terms there, what can I take out as a common factor? Negative 2. So negative 2x divided by negative 2 would give me x. Positive 2 divided by negative 2 gives me negative 1. So objective is we're always trying to make these two brackets the same. So that's x minus 1 and that's x minus 1. Now take note, although I've written it there, you need to know there's always an invisible 1. There I have x minus 1, x minus 1. So because it's separated by a minus sign, I can take out the further common factor, which in this case is x minus 1. And what's left in front of the bracket? 1 minus 2. So 1 minus 2 gives me negative 1. So negative 1 times x becomes negative x. Negative 1 times negative 1 becomes positive 2. Right, if I take positive 1 over, it will become negative 1. But in short, if I take negative x over, it becomes positive x. So x equal to 1. Alright, that's the basics. So the key concept is we want to take out a common factor in 4 terms in such a way that we have two brackets that look the same. And you see there the pattern. Whatever's left in front of the brackets, we write in their own bracket and then we solve for x. Right, so let's look at the second problem, little bit more complex. Right, so solve for x. Now they've given me xa minus xb minus a plus b. So again, we're looking at two terms and two terms together. So we look at this first two. Separated by a minus sign, so what is common on either side? Should see there in blue I have x on both sides. So I take out x as a common factor. Xa divided by x gives me a, minus xb divided by x gives me minus b. Right, so I have a minus b, but you see there a is negative and b is positive. I want a as positive and b as negative. So there, if I take out negative 1 as a common factor, what am I left with? Minus a divided by negative 1 gives me positive a. Positive b divided by negative 1 gives me negative b. So as I said, objective is this bracket and that bracket must look the same, right? So once they look the same, I can take it out then as a common factor. So I take out a minus b as a common factor. What's left in front of this bracket? I have x. Front of that bracket minus 1. So I have a minus b. X minus 1 equals 0. Take note, they only want me to solve for x. So I don't need to solve a minus b equals 0. So x minus 1 equals 0. If I take negative 1 over, x equal to positive 1. So I hope you follow and you see the pattern, the trend. So remember, algebra is just pattern recognition. There's a pattern to solving every problem and you have to practice till that pattern stays in your head. Right, now solve for x. Number 3, we have 9x4 minus 9x squared minus 4x squared plus 4 equals 0. Again, I have how many terms? 4 terms. Because I have an even set of terms, I'm going to group them into twos. So for those first two terms, what is common? There you can see there's a 9 and a 9. But x squared can go into itself and it can go into x4. So I take out 9x squared as a common factor. So that becomes 9x4 divided by 9x squared minus 9x squared divided by 9x squared. They have minus 4x squared plus 4. So I can take out negative 4 as a common factor. So negative 4x squared divided by negative 4. Negative divided by negative gives me positive. Positive 4 divided by negative 4. So they have 9x squared. And I'm left with x squared minus 1. If I simplify 9 divided by 9, 1. X4 divided by x2 gives me x2. Anything divided by itself gives me 1. So that is negative 1. 4x squared divided by 4 gives me x squared, minus 4 divided by 4 gives me negative 1, which equals 0. So now I'm left with x squared minus 1 and 9x squared minus 4, right? So from here, that means I have x squared minus 1 equals 0, or 9x squared minus 4 equals 0. But that is, now you see I'm going back to the second or third variation, difference of two squares. I can bring in here now. X squared minus 1 is the same as saying x times x, which is x squared, and 1 times 1. Negative times positive. So it's a negative between two perfect squares. They have a negative between two perfect squares. 9 is 3 times 3. X squared is x times x. 4 is 2 times 2, and a negative simply becomes negative times positive. So from here, x minus 1 equals 0. If I take negative 1 over, it becomes positive 1. X plus 1, if I take positive 1 over, it becomes negative 1. So x equal 1 or x equal negative 1. There, if I take 2 over, it becomes positive 2, but we always divide by whatever's in front of x. So 2 divided by 3. There, positive 2 goes over, it becomes negative 2, but divided by 3, so x equal minus 2 over 3. Right, let's look at the next problem. So solve for x. Now I have 3x squared plus 6x squared minus 9x minus x squared minus 2x plus 3 equals 0. So there I have 6 terms. So I have to group them into pairs. So here 6, if we divide it by 2, gives me 3 terms and 3 terms. So if I look at this first 3 terms, 3, 6, and 9, 3 can go into itself, into 6, and into 9. Look at x cubed, x squared, and x. They all have x, but I have to take out x with the lowest exponential value, which is x. So 3x comes out as a common factor. So 3x cubed divided by 3x. 3 divided by 3, 1. X cubed divided by x, x squared. 6 divided by 3 gives me 2. X squared divided by x gives me x. Negative divided by positive gives me negative. 9 divided by 3 gives me 3. And x cancels. If this term by the second set always has a negative that starts the grouping, then we have to take out negative. So there I'm taking out negative 1. If I take out negative 1, I'm left with x squared minus 2x divided by negative simply becomes positive 2x plus 3 then simply becomes minus 3. Again, the objective with grouping terms, you see this bracket and that bracket must be the same. They both read x squared plus 2x minus 3. So those two brackets are the same. And what am I left with? 3x minus 1. So I can say x squared plus 2x minus 3 equals 0. Or 3x minus 1 equals 0 according to the 0 factor law. Right, if I simplify this one, because this one is a bit easier, if I take negative 1 over positive 1, divide by whatever's in front of x, and then x equal 1 over 3. The second one there, you should see that's a quadratic equation. The last term negative, middle term positive. So therefore, it's going to be a negative times a positive. But if we add them together, it must give me plus 2x. So x squared is simply x times x. Positive 3 times negative 1 gives me negative 3. But 3 minus 1 gives me positive 2. Right, so therefore x plus 3 equals 0 or x minus 1 equals 0. Therefore x equal negative 3 or x equal 1 or x equal 1 over 3. Right, and that's just the different ways we would test you grouping of terms. Take note, there is a more complex variation where we rearrange this and you first have to rearrange it yourself to get in the proper order to take out the proper common factor. Right, so but I know you understand, now you're practicing, and I'm proud of the fact that you are still here by this variation and you are trying your best. God bless. Bye.